You've seen it.
It's a pumpkin swirl frozen coffee. Who the thought it was a good idea to put this on the menu? Because this drink has 185 grams of sugar in here. How much is it? It's this much. It's
Peepo fat. Everyone, peepo fat through this.
46 teaspoons of sugar. To give you another perspective, the amount of sugar in there is equal to 14 glazed donuts. Plus, there's no pumpkin in here, it's artificial flavors. There's 12 mentions of sugar and high fructose corn syrup in here. There's 930 calories and 194 carbs. 2/3 of us are already type 2 diabetic or pre-diabetic. If America runs on this, we're
All right, I'm ready. I'm ready to go full Michelle Obama Stalinism. I think this should be illegal. And I'm not kidding. This goes beyond syntax, man. Humans are so vulnerable to food stuff because we are biologically programmed to eat, and there is no reason on earth that any food has to be like this. Like, there's literally no reason at all. Like, it does not have to be like this, and it's purely because of corn syrup and federal subsidies on the production of corn syrup and corn sugar that allow for, like, yeah, man, let's just make everything delicious by pumping it full of 5 trillion calories of fake shit or whatever. Okay, this is something, this is like an actual unironic controversial thing, and I know that a lot of people are going to disagree with me on this, but this is the trade-off we have to make for Medicare for all, okay? We cannot have Medicare for all and also have everyone be 6,000 pounds because all of our restaurant and food companies are selling us like ultra cheap corn syrup blobs that are delicious and chemically addictive. You know, we can't do that. Look, if you want to be fat, that's fine. God bless you. But I want you to put some work into being fat. What the f is with people getting fat, like, accidentally? What the f is going on? Like, if you want to be fat, that's fine. I don't give a shit. You have a right to be fat. God bless you, okay? Live your life how you want, queen or king or whatever the fuck. Okay, I don't care. But you have to put some effort in, okay? I want you to be sitting there and thinking like, all right, man, I want to get fat. Time for me to eat some goddamn rice or whatever. Like, you have to put some effort in. Not like, oh, I didn't realize that this, like, pumpkin coffee sweet thing that I've been drinking is actually the dietary equivalent of, like, a diabetes outbreak exploding in my gut, you know? It's insane. The 2,600 calorie Dunkin' milkshake. Yeah, I somebody said this, but, like, liquid calories are something that people really don't think about or know much about. Like, we've all heard that Coke is really bad for you, and it is. You really shouldn't be drinking soda. But if you actually look at how many like, it's not filling, you know? So much of the calories that we take in are, like, liquid sugar nothings that don't fill us or satiate us in any way and are just, like, a tasty treat. But then it's like, oh, man, here's, like, 1 trillion calories or whatever. You're going to die now. This is more than the daily recommended amount for even a guy of my size to have, and it's one drink. Not to mention all the sugar and blah, blah. Hey, 38 grams of protein, though. Getting swole. Don't worry, they changed the formula. It's 1,500 calories now. Do you think there's anything a little bit up going on if it's possible for the same basic dietary, like, for the same basic food item to have 1,100 calories shaved off the top? Like, what were they doing to it before, you know? Like, food should not be this calorie dense. This is why, like, everyone's fat these days, right? Like, the guy in the video said that 2/3 of Americans are either diabetic or pre-diabetic. That's true. 2/3. And, like, the thing is, food shouldn't, like, it shouldn't be possible to sleepwalk your way into being like that, you know? Like, that should take some degree of effort. You should have some kind of, like, genetic problem or whatever, or at least an issue with self-control when it comes to eating. But people are just fat by default now, and it's 100% food company greed. It's not, okay, like, if you could snap your fingers and fix that shit, it would not make the world any less tasty. You do not need 2,600 calories to make this tasty. The problem is that so much of our shit is pumped full of corn syrup because corn syrup is super, super, super subsidized. So it's incredibly cheap to make anything tasty by just filling it up with the sticky sugar derivative syrup crap, you know? I mean, it's listed here in the thing. Where's the... Yeah, right there. Sugar, condensed fat, high fructose corn syrup, brown sugar, corn syrup, high fructose corn syrup, sugar, high fructose corn syrup, sugar, water, brown sugar. To be fair, there's a lot of non-high fructose corn syrup sugar in there as well. A lot of stuff thrown on in there. Remember that pic of a pantry that's captioned like it's wild how just everything in here is corn? Vaush corn syrup is subsidized? So much. So much. Yes. The fattest U.S. states also happen to be southern states with a large corn industry and high poverty rate. Yeah, like, so people say, like, so people will say that, like, being fat means that you're like, haha, capitalism is working because the problem communists have is they starve. The problem capitalists have is that they're fat or whatever. Being fat in America is a sign of poverty. And the reason for that is because the cheapest, most readily available, most filling food that you can get as a poor person is usually like gunked up, like corn syrup bullshit, you know? And that's really cheap and easy. Wealthy people don't eat that shit. I mean, some of them do, like Donald Trump loves McDonald's or whatever. Some of them do, to be sure. But like, if wealthy people can usually get really good meals that are a hell of a lot healthier, just because they have the money to, you know? We subsidize it so much that it's been artificially lowered to a point where it's like, oh well, this is how we keep the proles fed. It's prole feed, you know? You're eating prole slop is what you're doing. They're creating it for you, and they know what it does, and they're just giving it to you. And it's chemically addictive. Humans are designed to eat. We are really susceptible to like good tastes as a way of guiding our behavior and our instinct. Like it's obviously we eat. That's like the thing we do to not die. That's the main thing we do to not die. I just do not think it should be allowed for corporations to like do this shit. Okay, provide cheap food, sure, whatever. But the idea of like, hey, we can make this more expensive and more chemically addictive and marginally more tasty by also making it kill you, you might as well be loading with carcinogens. And we have laws against that. So I don't see why we can't have laws against this. You know, I'm full Michelle Obama Stalinism, all right? And by the way, I'm coming after soda as well. All of the shit that you like that's bad for you, there are better versions of it. And the only reason that isn't what you're seeing every day when you go out to the grocery market or the restaurant or whatever else is because it probably doesn't fit in with the super ultra subsidized like corn syrup grift that's going on. You know? Like people think that like, oh, why take the fun away? Like, dude, the corporations are the ones having fun. You're the one who's going to have diabetes at 43. They're the ones whose CEOs are retiring with billions of dollars. Like, they're the ones having fun, you know? You think you're having fun because you're enjoying the prol slop. You're like the hamster with the pellet when they press the button, okay? Like, obviously. But you could have better food. I don't want, like, high fructose corn syrup desubsidized. I want it to be taxed and made illegal. And everyone who has it instantly gets arrested, obviously. What is this? Study reveals possible connection between high fructose corn syrup and opioid addiction. What? Dietine fructose corn syrup. High fructose corn syrup, HFCS, impacts the brain the same way as addictive drugs. It triggers a response in the brain's reward circuit that leads to continued cravings in much the same way as a narcotic. We're really vulnerable to stuff like this. Also, neurodivergence can make you susceptible to food addiction. Again, to be clear, if all of the food that we were offered, like day to day, was reasonably healthy food, this wouldn't be as much of an issue. A good example of this is Japan, okay? Now, I know lots of Japan from the many wise Oriental cartoons that I've consumed. And also, I went there for a week. And you know what they don't have in Japan? Fat people. Now, a lot of people say this is because Japan has some kind of like ultra strict cultural bias against fat people. And they do. And it's bad. I'm not in any way condoning that. There is something else that Japan has, though, and it's on average much healthier food. Get a dessert in Japan, and you're getting a way different experience than a Western dessert. Go get their food or whatever, you're talking rice and fish and seaweed and stuff. Like, yeah, of course, obviously, that's a hell of a lot healthier. You know what it is, though? Tasty. It's really tasty. So isn't it weird that, like, their, I guess, like, default cultural diet lends itself, while still being delicious, lends itself to being way the healthier than our hyper subsidized corn syrup diet, you know? It probably doesn't help that a lot of like, I don't know, soul food or southern food or whatever the like American food styles there are tend to be super ultra deep fat fried, you know? I mean, you can have that shit, but again, I would rather people think like, oh, I'm gonna have like a big splurge of a meal. Let me have this like chicken fried steak or whatever, than a person just accidentally inhaling 3,000 calories from a Dunkin' Donuts smoothie. Very bad take by Vaush. Let people eat what they want. No, 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 no. If you want to eat a gigantic 3,000 calorie sugar monster, make it at home. Buy the sugar. Buy the high fructose. Watch yourself pour cup after cup of sugar into the blender, okay? You make that choice. This is not a matter of let people eat what they want. This is a matter of corporations making billions off of pushing incredibly unhealthy and addictive substances to people who often have very little knowledge of or understanding of their health, okay? People don't usually monitor the individual like health points, their macros and micros, their nutrients or whatever, because historically humans haven't had to do that. We eat what we can, we get the food we can. It's like cats. You know how cats like will pretend that they're starving to death if they haven't been given their food at exactly the right time? Cats intellectually know they're not starving to death. They're animals. They want the food. They want the food. You give them the food, they eat the food, you know? They're dumb. And we're dumb too. We go to the Dunkin' Donuts, we see the sugary drink, we eat it. It's like, oh well, there's a day's worth of calories, you know, whatever. But there's not much intellectualizing. And I just think it's kind of that like everyone has to pay for this, and it's purely to the benefit of the corporations. No one else benefits from this. Group shaping U.S. nutrition receives millions from big food industry. Yeah, like everything else that's regulatory in the United States, it has been turned over to corporate interests. Like we've seen this before with the food pyramid and the carbs thing. Like this is a known factor, you know? Vaush, so treat it like cigarettes. I guess we do tax the hell out of cigarettes. I just don't think the thing is like even with cigarettes, you can only get a cigarette from smoking a cigarette, but you can have a healthier, tastier version of basically any bullshit you get outside using like real human food and not the slop they put together. Vosh, I genuinely don't understand why you want drugs legal but not super sugary food. Like, I'm not disagreeing, but I don't get why banning works for one, not the other. I mean, you can tax the shit out of it if you want. I'm talking about like proper disincentive structures here. But the difference being is that like if a person is addicted to a drug, I think they're going to do anything or go out of their way to get it. Like if a person has like a heroin addiction, I think they will break any law or do anything they need to get that fix. And that treating it like a criminal issue or like banning it or whatever, probably. Well, first of all, we're talking about a difference between ownership and distribution, okay? These food corporations are distributing the drug, not just possessing it. I don't think people should be arrested for possessing a high fructose corn syrup sugar drink or whatever. Second of all, I don't think people will do anything they can to get a 3,000 calorie Dunkin' Donuts milkshake. Because the thing is, food desires are replaceable. If a person has a craving for like a sugary treat, there are a billion ways to get that aren't like the super ultra mega going to kill you diabetes drinks, you know? Whereas when it comes to shit like heroin or cocaine or whatever, there's not really like a replaceable, like that's like a proper addiction thing. Whereas in this case, it's more like people form repeatable habits and their health just slips out of control over time, you know? Google's supernormal stimuli explains why we're like this. I just don't think people understand how vulnerable we are. Describe these imitations that appeal to primitive instincts and oddly exert a stronger attraction than real things. Ah, yeah, like the fucking this is grug brain. This is grug brain intellectualized. Junk food is the new tobacco. Experts call for restrictions to tackle obesity. Yeah. I don't think high fructose corn syrup should be banned. There are valid uses for it, but Vosh, I'm going to drop a very hot take, and I don't know if you'd agree, but as someone who is fat myself, I don't think anyone who is fat is actually happy about it or wants to be fat, and if they say that, they're usually copium. In a lot of cases, yeah, but I do think there are people who legit don't care or actually who like it, and I think that's totally fine. I don't think there's anything morally wrong with being fat. I do think that most people who are fat could probably enjoy better lives if they weren't, purely because of like health stuff. But this is just like, again, it's purely like a corporation's cucking. It's pro slop, you know? Yeah, again, none of this is meant to be a moral argument against being fat. It's the pro slop thing. In South America, Africa, and the Middle East, the corn sugar problem is even worse. Vosh, it's fucked. Yeah, this is largely a global issue. It's not just America. There's a lot of variety there. But the pattern is the same in most countries where this is happening, which is just people are getting like mass produced food for cheap, and that the food production process usually relies on like ridiculously unhealthy shit that benefits the corporations but not the people, and blah 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 blah, you know. Yes, Brightsy. Have you seen the documentary The Sugar Film? No. So in today's America, is there a way to eat healthy, tasty, low-effort food, or do you have to sacrifice at least one of these aspects? No, you don't. Literally, again, like, there are tons of rice and bean and chicken meals that are cheap and incredibly tasty. Fast food isn't even that cheap these days. Like, Starbucks coffees are $4 or $5 or whatever. People go out and they get, like, the dollar menu is now, like, $3 or $4. Like, nothing's cheap, you know? And the crazy thing is, all of this is still this expensive with the distorted prices caused by the incredible subsidies enjoyed by the corn and beef industries. Whereas if we subsidize stuff like rice production, we would all be able to get like gigantic bowls of rice and chicken for like $1 outside. Not $1, but like we are subsidizing the worst shit, man. People frame like people are getting fatter over time, and people unironically want you to believe that this is like a discipline issue. Like people like especially conservatives are like, hey man, let me try to explain to you how this is just human beings are just getting less disciplined over time. You know, that's definitely what's happening, which is ridiculous. Diabetes rates over time, U.S. Yeah, this chart right here is just over the past 20 years, or only about 15 years period because it stops at 2020. That's crazy, man, for diabetes. It's not good. So would raising the price via tax help? Yeah, I mean, to a large extent, yeah. Thoughts on how a lot of people talk about making soda cans smaller is a stupid answer to soda addiction? I just full on think people should not drink soda. I'm really sorry. The fact that people unironically drink soda is insane to me. I know that I'm one of those weirdos who just drinks water and basically nothing else, like coffee, I guess. But like soda is like the moment you taste soda, you are being told by your body that this is a caustic, disease-giving liquid that means to hurt you, and people drink it anyway. You know, it's the existential terror that I feel when I read about those people who like don't like drinking water because it's not flavored or whatever. That shit, like unironically, like I will legally mandate you into the pod. Like I will force you to drink nothing but water for the rest of your life. I can't believe that shit, you know? Modernity. Hyperbolic much? No, not hyperbolic much. Soda actually is very bad for you. Everyone knows this. Maybe it's a rare treat. I only drink it like once every few months as vanilla Coke or crack and spice rum. I think a lot of this could be fixed with price points. Sure, you know, like tax this, make that more expensive or whatever. It's just like, I don't know. People it's like an externality thing. People do very little thinking when it comes to the long-term consequences of stuff like this because they like nobody thinks, oh man, this is a tasty meal, but if I do this 5,000 more times, then 10 years from now I might have an issue. Like people don't think that. At Vaush, I just don't buy the sugar hand-wringing you're doing when you're advocating for Portuguese-style drug decriminalization. IMO people should be held to their own decisions of food. They're not comparable. I already explained why. But even if that was the case, Portuguese-style drug decriminalization is about getting rid of crimes for possession. I don't want to arrest anyone for having a sugary drink or whatever. That's different than like banning the sale of it. In many countries, the fatty foods come from America. I don't know where like hold on. Obesity rates in UK graph. I guess I should say diabetes because obesity isn't like a real thing. It's not like a real term. Yeah, it's definitely on the rise too. Corn syrup in UK. Corn syrup is used in the UK but not readily available to buy. So you can't buy it on its own? But it's still used and stuff. The UK uses golden syrup as a substitute, a refined sugar syrup made from sugar cane, as opposed to corn. Okay, interesting. We use sugar from beets in Northern Europe. Yeah, there's a bunch of different ways to make, like, your own kind of distilled sugar from a crop, right? I mean, you could use sugar cane, you could use corn, you could use beet, you could use a lot of stuff. Broken windows policing, but with soda. Yeah, exactly. Fair, but does that extend to, say, desserts at restaurant, make them prohibitively expensive? No, again, my issue here isn't like anyone. My issue here isn't like you can go to a restaurant and get a big meal or like an unhealthy meal or whatever. The problem is that this is integrated at every level of our society. Again, this isn't like, oh, one restaurant was caught serving a meal that was over the allotted number of calories. And it is the fact that every single food item that you can get, like all pre-processed food, like all the fast food, all of it, you know, all this shit is just like a hazy blur of corn syrup subsidized horse shit that is way the less healthy than it needs to be. This isn't a matter of like hyper specific broken windows style, like, you know, City 17, put the sugary chocolate cake slice in the bin right now, citizen bullshit. Okay. It's like there's such an obvious and artificial problem we're dealing with right now, and people can't conceive of a world outside of it, even though it was better when you guys were younger. Like, it's getting worse over time. the inflation of calories in just like regular shit that you can get day to day, and the stuff that's presented to us is something we can observe in our lifetimes, but people still think it's impossible to go back, you know? Also, we should learn how to cook. Do you think fast food as a concept could survive without these things? Sure. Like, I mean, a good example would be the fast food in like the Japanese restaurants or whatever, you know? You can go and get like sushi or a rice bowl with some chicken or whatever, and that's infinitely healthier than the comparable equivalents over here. And it tastes better. Do you guys think that like a Big Mac tastes better than teriyaki chicken over rice? I mean, maybe some of you do, but I feel like that's a really obvious, like, and the latter, the teriyaki chicken over rice is cheaper to make without subsidies and significantly healthier, proportional to the calories that you get and how full you feel. So I don't know. Teriyaki also has sugar. Yeah, that's fine. Sugar is not bad. Foods don't have to compete with each other. I mean, when on one, if on one side of things you have like subsidized bullshit that kills you, and on the other side you have like real food, then I mean maybe it kind of does a little bit. It's so much, man. Ultra processed food raises the risk of heart attack and stroke, studies show. The thing that really depresses me is that there are so many people, even leftists, who will see shit like this and shrug and go, whatever, man, YOLO, live life, haha, not realizing that all of this is being done for the benefit of corporations. Like, people should be angry. People are like, ah, haha, live a little, you know, whatever, life's unhealthy, haha. But then it's like, this isn't how it's supposed to be. It's not, this isn't the default state of things. It like the comparable equivalent would be me saying like, hey, look at how many pedestrians are being killed by getting hit by Ford F-150s because all these trucks are getting way the larger. And people are like, you know, life is dangerous, man. Live a little bit. Well, there's policy decisions. The Irish Supreme Court even ruled that bread used by Subway can't be considered bread because it has so much sugar in it. Jesus Christ. And has to be classified as confectionery. Can somebody explain to me why the Subway bread... Subway doesn't even taste good. Can somebody explain to me why the Subway bread has to have this much sugar in it? Pret Stonebake Lasange Soup Baguette. Subway Italian white bread. McDonald's Big Mac bun. Hey, why the do these just pieces of bread? Look at this. They have the same amount of sugar as a fucking Jaffa cake. And it's just the bun. Or the Subway roll. Jaffa cakes are tiny, man. Yeah, and they're a dessert. A sugar content of 10% of the weight of the flour included in the dough. Jesus Christ. This is an Ireland-specific thing? Yeah, this designation, but they probably use the same amount of sugar in our shit. Hey, Vaush, out of curiosity, how do you think corn subsidies work? The government, I mean, there are probably a bunch of different mechanisms for it, but it deflates the cost of production for corn or corn syrup and for meat related. There's a bunch of like agricultural subsidies, and the overall purpose is to deflate the cost of production so that it goes to market cheaper. Look at how the unity of cereal companies against the FDA because they want to label Lucky Charms as healthy. Fruity Pebbles and Lucky Charms threaten to block healthy food labeling guidelines because this rule limits their free speech, right, obviously. They're lobbying against a new FDA proposal that would prevent them from labeling their products as healthy. Chat should be on the verge of Fed posting over this. Don't Fed post, chat. This is killing people, but they're too contrarian brained or they love their prol slop too much to understand. Yeah, people like the response from chat right now is fucking insane. Like, all of these foods existed before, and then corporations save 0.01 cent per unit by pumping it full of high fructose corn syrup. And people in chat are like, dude, what? You want to make it illegal to have fun? Like, this is like a libertarian. It's crazy how Michelle Obama is actually the vanguard of Stalinism, because she was the one who proposed changes that are so radical to the Ameriprolfat mind that like even lefties on our side disagree with them. Increasing use of high fructose corn syrup graph. Can I get a graph that simplifies it that much? Is that possible? Oh, that's nice. It's been dropping off a little bit. Maybe? These graphs end at the year 2000, though. Why do all these graphs end at the year 2000? Did they stop doing studies after that? It's been 2.5 decades. 2000 was when the world ended? That's true. I only see shit like this, which ends at the year 2000. The problem, so it's not that this came out of nowhere. The high fructose corn syrup was replacing other forms of sugar because it became cheaper to do that. People, when I say high fructose corn syrup, it's high fructose corn syrup is not the only kind of sugar or whatever, like obviously, right? Because there's like sugar, you know? It's just a way of producing the sweetener that fits in line with our like agricultural product and our subsidies and blah blah. And it's just easy to put everywhere, you know? The decreasing cane and beet sugar. Yeah, it's very bioavailable. Regular sucrose is less bad for you than high fructose corn syrup. I've heard that, but I don't actually know if that's true. Hold on. Is high fructose corn syrup worse for you than sucrose? Yeah, no, I don't think it's worse. The bottom line, evidence to suggest that one is worse than the other is currently lacking. I don't know if that's analysis of data from the literature suggests high fructose corn syrup consumption was associated with a higher level of CRP. CRP? CRP? Do we want to do we want to clarify that? Critical race praxis? Yeah. Whatever. Compared to sucrose, while no significant change between the two sources evident. Okay, so just higher level of CRP, whatever that is. Okay. C-reactive protein blood test. I don't know enough about like health or medicine to really make a statement on that then. We just put that shit in everything though. High fructose corn syrup is a way of hacking our brains. We instinctively like seeds and oil. I'm just trying to see, you know, I don't feel like there's any explanation for its increasing use apart from cost savings for corporations. And the fact that obesity has been significantly on the rise for a while is not like a coincidence. I mean, if it's a more widely available corn supply, then that would make corn syrup a more like cost-effective measure, right, Kowalski? Are you a good cook? No. Vaush, would you support a ban on the sale of alcohol? If not, why is soda worse? I don't know why you go so hard on soda. Dude, you people are so fucking defensive. Holy shit. Jesus Christ. Soda sells seething. Yeah. Just one more bottle. Genuinely, I'm getting triggered right now. I do not understand why all of these graphs end at the year 2000. Every single one that I'm seeing, every single one that charts high fructose corn. Did something happen after the year 2000? Did something happen about like the legality of measuring? Did the FDA get cucked or something? Did the Bush Jr. administration do something? Why? Why does it cut off? Vaush, I'm a legit athlete and I'll drink a soda now and again. Chill, dude. So defensive. You can't talk about this shit, man. Oh my god. This is just the average US calorie intake from 1970 to 2010. I like how the average calorie intake dropped off after 2008 a little bit. It's like the first time in a while that there's been a significant decrease in calorie intake because people couldn't afford as much food. Vaush, I think people are just confused what you actually want to happen here. Okay, when I say shit like, I want to enact Michelle Obama Stalinism and ban all this whatever, I think what I'm trying to get across is a general distaste for the state of affairs. I would hope people would understand that if I was talking about an actual serious set of policy proposals, that would be like an entirely separate... Okay, you guys understand that... Okay, no. All right, I'm going to go off on you guys, okay? I need you guys to pick your autism up off the floor and understand what is being discussed here. The specific policy proposals concerning dietary regulations would be so complicated that there is no possible way that any single individual American, especially not me, could lay out an actual detailed plan. I'm not a congressman. I don't have the ability to ban your soda. What I'm clearly talking about, what I'm clearly fixating on, is the class dynamic and the extent to which corporations have profited from the ability to inject high fructose corn syrup into everything, which has led to increasing levels of obesity, which people can't regularly manage because people don't usually hyper-fixate on their like carb intake or whatever. You know, people don't actually give a shit about that, and they can't meaningfully deal with it because it's practically an externality when it comes to like day-to-day life. So when I'm saying all of this, and people are like, dude, bro, like, you can't like, well, you really want to ban soda, but you think cocaine should be legal? What you're doing here is you're fixating on the wrong set of things that I have said, because the things that I have said are so clearly tuned towards the broader issue. If you actually think I'm leveraging policy proposals here, I don't know how I've given you that impression. Okay, I don't know. Though I find some of these comparisons disingenuous, like the idea that this is in any way related to like Portuguese style drug decriminalization. Like I don't understand. Okay, but like it's like some of you guys over and over again. No, don't take my soda. What are you talking about, dude? Nobody's taking your soda. You think I can do anything? Do you think I have power? Do you think that I'm going to like make America stop selling soda? You act legitimately betrayed. Like my frustration at this is not being, you know, directed towards the broader set of issues here and not the specific inability that I have to leverage my enormous power as a YouTuber to get soda banned. Chill out. I don't have a specific set of policy proposals. Vaush, when you say people are knowingly and willingly eating their slop, it does kind of imply they just don't care and are happily engaged in disgusting activities. Yes, I am saying, I'm not implying it, I'm saying it. The average American, the average human being, does not have like the broad like health and dietary knowledge necessary to make a bunch of informed decisions when it comes to what they should eat. The regulating mechanism for humans becoming fat is our how full we are. That's what it is. The biological process that is meant to keep us from ballooning up into gigantic lard balls is how full we get. When we're full, we stop eating. When we're hungry, we eat. Now, if high fructose corn syrup is being injected into every food item that we get, people are going to be consuming more calories before they're actually full. Our natural equilibrium is out of whack. It's a problem that can only be faced in modernity, right? So if the natural balancing system that we have that is meant to keep us more or less healthy is no longer working because food is being arbitrarily calorie densified purely for the profit margins of corporations, that is what I am taking issue with here. But that's not like an individual discipline or decision making issue. You know, this isn't like I think humans should all be super extra disciplined and overcome their you know, their dietary practices and their personal biases and preferences and all exercise PhD nutritionist level understanding over what they eat and so on. You're way madder at sugar addicts than you ever have been at weed addicts. What? Don't worry, chat. Vaush loves explaining his position over and over again. That's true. That's true, I do. I love that. There's nothing that I love more. Genuinely, though, the fact that I'm having so much trouble finding recent data on this stuff is weird. I don't know why all of these graphs end at the year 2000. That's genuinely very strange to me. Apparently, back in 2013, the average daily calories consumed by an American was 3,600. That is insane. Jesus Christ. I mean, even back in 1961, it was still well over par at 2,880, but that's still an 800 calorie increase. You should look at what hydrogenated versus partially hydrogenated. Yeah, I don't know what trans fat is. I don't know what this crap means. Prevalence of partially hydrogenated oils in U.S. packaged food. The fat oil thing is mostly a distraction from the sugar industry. Yeah, I think people overfixate on fat and underfixate on sugar for the most part, because you can kind of taste when something has a lot of butter or oil in it. We do need fat as well. We benefit from fat. Yeah, and they're a lot more satiating as well. Yeah. I'm actually getting kind of weirded out by the lack of data that I can find on this. Normally, like, this is a subject that you'd think would warrant a lot of study. Like, I didn't think it would be difficult for me to Google stuff like increasing prevalence of high fructose corn syrup in food, and then have, like, a blank drawn up. Like, this seems like stuff that would be really, 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 really easy to find. From Statistica, it says that the per capita consumption of high fructose corn syrup has actually decreased significantly over the past 20 years, which is interesting. The question then is why? What is replacing it? From the U.S. Department of Agriculture, per capita sweeteners delivery steadily declining largely due to reduced demand for high fructose corn syrup. So what's replacing the high fructose corn syrup then? Because the caloric consumption has continued to go up, hasn't it? If diabetes rates, obesity, and caloric consumption have all gone up, that indicates that something is replacing the high fructose corn syrup as a way of sweetening these foods. This is a different site. Seed oil? I don't think you can just inject seed oil into a thing and make it super sweet. Wikipedia says it's going down broadly, but what's replacing it? Like literally just the sugar plant. Like we're not talking about cane syrup or golden syrup or corn syrup or beet syrup. We're just talking about the sugar plant, correct? What's the difference between natural and refined sugar? Sugar plant isn't a thing. Sugarcane. Thank you. Sugarcane. Yes, the plant that produces sugar. Jesus. Refined sugar is basically bleached white. Okay, so hold on. American sugar consumption over time. So we should see an increase then. 200 years ago, the average American only consumed 2 pounds of sugar per year, whereas today the average American consumes an estimated 77 pounds of sugar per year. Hell yes. Holy shit, shut up. Why is it so difficult to find data on this? Again, it stops at 2000. 2005 in this case. But you see a weird drop off in the sugar consumption. What law passed to change that? And follow-up question, where are excess calories coming from? Where are American calories coming from over time graph? Modern American diet has gotten bigger, heavier on grains and fat. Interesting. So when compared to the 1970s, there's only a small increase in the amount of sugars and sweeteners consumed, where the real big jumps are in fats and oils and grain products. Okay, well, this tells a completely different story than what we were talking about before. Before, we were talking about how this is being caused by corn-derived sweeteners, as listed down here, but this chart right here says that the comparison and difference comes mostly from fats, oils, and grain products. Then why does it say that sugar consumption has continued to go up? The popularity of high fructose corn syrup rose in the 1970s when, due to manufacturing advances, it became cheaper to produce than sugar. This ingredient is commonly found in everything, made by refining cornstarch. One of the many concerns regarding HFCS is that, unlike sugar, it does not trigger the secretion of leptin, a hormone that tells you when your brain is full. Tells your brain when you are full. Really? Wait, high fructose corn syrup does not trigger the brain reaction that tells you that you're full? Well, that's interesting. Because of this, eating high fructose corn syrup can lead to increased caloric intake and obesity, heart disease, blah, blah. Americans consume an average of 60 pounds of this sweetener every year. Beginning in 2009, discovered high amounts of mercury in nearly 50% of commercial HFCS samples. That's cool. Of the 55 brand name foods containing HFCS tested, 1/3 also contained mercury. What is this new HFCS replacement? HFCS 90 is the name of this new villain, which you will simply see as fructose on labels, and it is 90% fructose syrup. Is this also corn syrup? So it's not high fructose corn syrup, even though it's even more fructose corn syrup. I love American labeling, man. Guys, it's not high fructose corn syrup, which is only 50% fructose. This is 90% fructose corn syrup. So yeah, just fructose, I guess. I don't know how much I trust this article. America, consumption, high fructose corn syrup 90. I still can't check on that Department of Agriculture link. Okay, so is it possible then that a lot of the increased caloric consumption can be tied to high fructose corn syrup denying our brain the ability to recognize when we're full, and that makes us consume more food broadly? Because high fructose corn syrup would be added to these foods, right? Grain products, like stuff made out of bread or cereal or whatever, and fats and oils could be like confectionaries, anything baked with butter. Like, high fructose corn syrup would be used in these two items significantly. They would also be used in stuff like dairy products or whatever, but is this like a leaded gas thing, but with fatness? Yeah, I guess. I don't know how much it affects our brains, though. The obtained results indicate similar metabolic effects of HFCS55 in sucrose and feed, the level of 11% dietary value on the energy intake, body weight gain, and periorgan adipose tissue accumulation in rats. The results suggested that accusations against HFCS as the major dietary contributor to overweight and obesity are unfounded, and the total elimination from HFCS in the diet seemed to be unnecessary. So wait, that link is saying that there isn't an effect on whether or not you get full? I'm losing my mind with this. Is this going to be one of those things where it's literally not possible to find the answer because there are 50 trillion studies and half of them are paid by industry rats, meaning that no matter what you do, you're going to find contrary evidence to literally any point? This article says that increasing consumption in sugar is enough to explain the adult obesity change. I think that I'm going to default towards anti-corporate populism through all of this and say that all of this is still a problem with corporations. We know for a fact that they're tipping the scales on FDA recommendations. We know for a fact that they pay off scientists and researchers. We know for a fact that they lie constantly about the contents of their food. Yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and say that we should probably, I don't know, do socialism or something. That'll fix all of this. In the meantime, eat rice and beans, okay? Scroll down, it shows HFCS over time. This, where US obesity goes up like this, but the HFCS goes down, then what's replacing it? Total sugars, refined sugars, fruit juice. You're gonna need a professional for this? Yeah, but I feel like different professionals will just give me different fucking answers. It's prevalent because hydrogenated vegetable oil is in almost anything and it's being banned. What? Okay, my final conclusion is this. Literally just don't eat processed foods, okay? Buy staple foods like rice and beans and spices and make your own delicious meals. They will taste better than anything you buy at a grocery store. Even if you want to eat sweets or whatever, like you could probably make those yourself too. There's stuff you can do to meal prep so that it doesn't take a time and you'll save a lot of money too. Just do that, okay? You will never do that? Wait, I do that. I eat a lot of rice and beans. What do you mean? And canned chili. Remember that they made a new high fructose corn syrup and it has a different name, so it's not in the graphs anymore. Do they seriously omit it from the graphs, even though it's basically the same? Oh my god. Yeah, I feel like if corporations weren't fucking around, they wouldn't feel the need to be so duplicitous with their branding and their mislabeling of chemicals and their technical like, oh, it's not high fructose corn syrup, it's higher fructose corn syrup. So actually, it's totally different. Make sure to leave it off your graphs. I feel like this is made confusing on purpose. Yeah, well, it's the same shit that corporations did with like climate change as well. They've done it with like they did it with smoking too. There was a period of time during like the 50s and 60s and shit where people legitimately were arguing that smoking was actually good for you. And a lot of that was because like tobacco corporations would literally just pay researchers off to cook studies in their favor, you know? And it's been like that with the FDA for decades and decades and decades, with like constantly, time and time again, we find like, oh, these food corporations were all like lying a bunch in order to get like FDA standards changed, or they were like protesting this or that, like all the time, you know? Um, so I think my default answer, my true answer here is never eat any processed foods. Just eat nothing but rice and live like a Shaolin monk, okay? Role of high fructose corn syrup in metabolic syndrome and hypertension. And buy an air fryer. What even are processed foods? I mean, basically anything that you would buy at a grocery store or restaurant that wasn't made on site, but was rather made like in a factory somewhere and then packaged. I mean, depends on what you mean by processing. Like processing food can mean anything. Technically, you process food when you cook it. Like processing just means that humans have intercepted the food and done a thing. But like there's different levels of processing, you know? It's not just junk food either. Like processed foods can be like anything, right? And there are processed foods that are fine too. It's just like it's pretty tough to tell, I guess. An air fryer is just a convection oven. Yeah, but it happens fast because it's small. What if you're too lazy to prepare your own food? If you get better at developing a process for making food and you get the Tupperware to contain it, you can spend less time than you would with the equivalent restauranting or grocery shopping and significantly less money too. Like the main trick is doing it in bulk and knowing how to like anticipate your needs. Because what a lot of people will do is they'll be like hungry and they'll think, oh man, I'm hungry, but I don't want to like make food right now because I'm hungry and that saps my energy. So I'll just like order DoorDash or whatever. And then you spend $5,000 on DoorDash. And it's like, oh, well, whatever. But what you could have done is, hey, remember how earlier in that same day you were both not hungry and kind of bored? You weren't bored. So you had like, or sorry, you were bored. So you had like 20 minutes or whatever. You could have just made yourself a week's worth of food right then. And that would have saved you so much time in the future, you know? So much time. What about just buying pre-made microwavable food? I mean, that's more expensive and more processed, but you can if you want, right? It's just hard when you're working 40 plus hours a week. No, I understand that, but you're working to make money, right? You want to save that money, right? If you get good with the rice making and the bean making and the chili making and the blah blah blah, you can make like an insane amount of food. Like if you get a big rice cooker, just a big 10 cup, right? Like these are like $30 on Amazon. They're nothing. Um They do not cost much, okay? If you just get one of these, just a nice, simple rice cooker, and you make 10 cups of rice, congratulations, you now have like a week of rice with like anything. And this makes like 10 cups of rice. You can make like 20 or 30 depending on what you get, you know? And then like, oh man, time to make the beans or whatever. Time to make like the chili. You can have food ready for yourself for a long time. Um the simplest version of this is just make a fuck ton of rice, and then while the rice is making, like add some butter and add some lime juice and add some greens or whatever. I forget the exact recipe. Make some Mexican rice. Like just mix it. You can just Google, like 2 seconds. You can Google. Do. Eating rice isn't great for you either. Yes, it is. It's fine. Don't buy the like never eat carbs bullshit or whatever. It's fine. Rice is fine. Okay. Um. Do. Okay, you're gonna make the Mexican rice or whatever. Vaush acting like rice is good for you. Guys, shut up. Oh my god. Rice is just a good filling staple food, all right? Jesus fucking Christ. Anyway, you make the rice and then you make a bunch of beans, okay? You can do the dry beans if you want. How much? Okay, bag of dry black beans. If you really want to save money. Like 1 pound for like $1 or something. 25-pound bag for $70. I could get it for way cheaper than that. That's overpriced. I've seen it way cheaper than that just in the store. You make that shit, or like canned beans or whatever. And then you got some rice, you got some beans, add a little bit of sour cream, and then heat up some toast some little corn tortillas, and then put that together, and then kablamo. Look at these delicious black beans. Don't you just want to add them to rice and then add some hot sauce and some sour cream and put them in a corn tortilla? I know you do. But I don't like Mexican food. That's a you problem. That looks terrible. Sorry, it's not a Coca-Cola. There was one last thing that I wanted to talk about before I read donations and then skedaddled. And it's basically like a very long-standing W. Like it's been so long that I honestly kind of forgot everything. So back in 2015, after Obergsfell, after the legalization of gay marriage across the country, this woman became a national figure for boldly violating law and denying a gay couple their marriage certificate. Kim Davis, this horrid human being, this piece of shit, enjoyed months of media attention from Christian conservatives for boldly, she's a county clerk, and she denied marriage licenses to same-sex couples, and she would go on media circuit, just show after show after show about how God has not given her permission to do this. Look, she appealed to the Supreme Court, but the application to appeal was denied. She continued to defy the court order by refusing to issue marriage licenses, quote, under God's authority, and was eventually jailed for contempt of court. Was released after 5 days in jail under the condition that she not interfere with the efforts of her deputy clerks who had been issuing marriage licenses to all couples in her absence. Davis then modified the Kentucky marriage licenses used in her office so they no longer mentioned her name. Strong and mixed reactions from prominent politicians, legal experts, and religious leaders. Just a horrible human being. And she, of course, received lawsuits, and she was ordered to pay $100,000 just yesterday. Yeah, she got whacked with a fine. She'll make like billions on fundraisers to pay for this. I'm just glad the same-sex couple is getting some money. You know, it took like 9 years, or 8 years or whatever, $50K to each of the plaintiffs. That's nice. For those of you who don't know, who weren't aware of or like present at the time, you guys have no idea how much I had to see this face if ever you had the news on, just all throughout 2015. Just constantly. It was a sad time. Yeah. Can you get it off the screen, please? There you go. Sorry.